Grimaldus. They lied to us about the Mannheim Gap. They sent us there to die. You know of whom I speak. We cannot outrun the echoes of Qatar. We pay the price now for our virtue in the past. The Celestial Lions will never leave this world. A handful of us remain, but we know the truth. We died at the Mannheim Gap. We died the day the sun rose over the scrap iron bodies of alien gods.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of G-Rex Customs. The Celestial Lions are one of the many tragedies of the Warhammer universe. For those who don't know, the Celestial Lions are a successor of the Imperial Fists, themed after African culture and famous for a one-sided feud with the Inquisition. The feud is one-sided because the Inquisition is clearly winning. To make a long, tragic story short, Celestial Lions liberated the planet of Qatar after a Saneshi cult had corrupted the local government and defense forces. Then, as they were leaving, the Inquisition the Lions had been working with executed exterminatus on the planet, wiping out the entire loyal population they had managed to save and rendering the entire planet worthless. Infuriated by this, the Celestial Lions became vocal opponents of the Inquisition. This went about as well as you'd expect it to, as a ship full of senior chapter officials was destroyed mysteriously during a trip to Terra to discuss the matter, and the chapter itself was almost destroyed during the Third War of Armageddon. Thanks to horrible intelligence and basically being sent to die, it was only the intervention of Grimaldus from the Black Templars that saved them, and even then, there were only 12 Battle Brothers left in the entire chapter. They have been rebuilding, but things still really haven't improved for them. The last major update we heard about the Celestial Lions, Battle Brother Dubaku, the Marine who led the chapter's final assault on Armageddon, and had afterwards been promoted to Chapter Master, was beheaded by Alcala's assassin during a meeting between the Celestial Lions and one of their few allies, the Emperor's Spears. So, all in all, things continue to go pretty poorly for them. For this Kitbash, I wanted to work in those ideas and incorporate parts of their cultural influences and Imperial Fist lineage to create something unique. For this Kitbash, you're going to need 3 kits. The Age of Sigmar Stormcast Lord Terminos from the Vermintide box, the Dark Angels Inner Circle Companions, and the Dark Angels Deathwing Knights. That said, we're only going to be using 1 mace from the Deathwing Knights and a head and power pack from the Companions. So you could probably get those parts off eBay if you don't have them lying around. Though personally, I like having the kits around as there's a ton of extra bits in both and you can do a lot of interesting things with them. At the end of the day, it's up to you, but I always tend to err on the side of getting more bits. For the base of this model, we're going to be using the Lord Terminos from the Vermintide box. I wanted to use the Lord Terminos to include the robes, the pelt, and the lion-like skull molded into the left shoulder pad. I decided to go with the one from the Vermintide box specifically because I really like the pose. I like how he's looming there, standing with his weapon planted in the dirt. Not the generic action pose that you see on a lot of Warhammer models, but still impressive and imposing. For the first part of this Kitbash, we're going to be building the Lord Terminos according to the instructions. Like most of GW's push-fit kits, I find that the pegs are always slightly too long for them to fit correctly. So I make sure to trim them down slightly before I glue the different parts of the body together. The first actual modification we're going to be making is removing the sunburst collar off the back of the model. First, I cut the majority of the collar off with my hobby clippers. Then, I go in and clean it up with my hobby knife and file. Once the collar's off and we have a nice flat surface, we can assemble the rest of the model, except for the arms and the head. For the head, we're going to use one of the hooded Mark 7 heads from the Inner Circle Companion kit. To make the head fit better into the body and to emphasize the front part of the collar, I cut most of the ball joint off the bottom of the head and filed it down. Once I'm happy with the fit up, I glue the head in place with some sprue goo. For those of you who don't know, sprue goo is just Tamiya extra thin glue with bits of cut up sprue melted into it. This creates a paste that helps fill in gaps, and once it's hardened, you can sand or file it down as you need to. Next, we're going to change out the weapon. Instead of the axe, we're going to be giving this guy one of the mace's Deathwing Knights kit. I feel like the war mace helps to tie him into his Imperial Fist lineage, and it shows off the chapter's African influence. Now, the Celestial Lion's African influences have always been a little odd, since Africa is an entire continent with a lot of different and diverse cultures spread throughout it, and the lions have never really been tied to a specific one. So I decided to go broad with the influence. Most African tribes made heavy use of war clubs and weapons we'd call mauls or maces in one form or another. So, it seems like the best way to tie into the influence without making it seem gimmickly or stereotypical. For this mace, I used one of the maces from the newer Deathwing Knights kit. I used one of the maces that didn't have a purity seal on it, since the mace would be upside down resting on the ground, and I thought it would look weird to see the purity seal paper sticking straight up in the air in defiance of gravity. To make things simple, I decided to use the shaft from the Lord Terminos' axe and only keep the mace's head and energy generator. I then compared what was left of the mace to the axe and clipped away enough so that it would fit up properly. Then, I cleaned up the cut with my file so that it created a nice flat surface. Finally, I connected the mace to the shaft using sprue goo and attached the arms to the body. I quickly realized this wouldn't dry right, so I decided to attach the model to its tactical rock and glue it to the base so that I could glue the part of the mace that would be resting on the ground to the base. That way it would stay in place while it dried. From there, I moved on to the final part of the Kitbash, attaching the power pack. I chose one of the power packs from the Inner Circle companion kit, one of the ones without the smoke coming out of it, since I didn't think the smoke fit the aesthetic I was going for. Once I had the pack picked out, I just glued it to the back of the model using sprue goo, making sure to take advantage of the flat edge left behind from removing the collar. Once that was secure and dry, all there was left to do was paint the model, leaving us with this. I think this model turned out well. I was a little hesitant to tackle the Celestial Lions at first, since I didn't want to do them wrong. It can be hard to work a chapter's real-world influences into a model when those influences aren't well defined, especially when it can turn out looking pretty bad if you do it wrong. I think I managed to pull it off pretty well here. For the colors, I decided to get close to the official scheme, but to use black for the hood and cape. I did this for two reasons. The first was to differentiate it from the blue used for the robes and the helmet, and the second was to help with the somber foreboding aura I wanted for the whole model. With the last major lore for the Lions being the assassination of their chapter master, the battle brother who saved the entire chapter from extinction, I like to think that the whole chapter would still be in mourning and feeling pretty vengeful, which was the overall theme I wanted for this model. Dangerous and looming instead of triumphant and heroic. Do you think I pulled that off? If not, feel free to yell at me in the comments. If you liked the video, share it on your social media, and remember, I release new videos whenever I can, so subscribe and hit the bell button to stay in the loop. And if you have any ideas for what I should do next, let me know, and I'll do my best to put it on the list of kit bashes I'll do in the future. Thank you, and have a nice day. This is Rex, signing off.